Hello YouTubers. Well, it's been a few months since I've had my Creality Ender 5 Pro printer, and I've gotten a lot better using it. It's not like my first laughably bad attempts at 3D printing, which I'll put a link to that video up here in the upper corner if you want to watch it. But I think everybody probably has a lot of problems with their first 3D printer right out of the box when they have no experience using it. But like I said, it's been a couple of months. I've been using this thing pretty much 24/7, much to my wife's chagrin. She says I'm obsessed with it. Spend a lot of time out here in my workshop with it. And my printing's got a lot better. I've made some really neat stuff with it. In fact, I've made some really big stuff where this is made out of 4 pieces because it's way too big to print on the printer. And the pieces were glued together after they were printed. And I made a lot of other stuff too. There's a lot of stuff back here. I got some knobs, some this is just sort of a representative collection of stuff I've printed. I printed a whole lot of stuff. But I got some knobs, some tooth timing pulleys, some gears, which, you know, and the gears mesh really nicely too, which is great. Some fan shrouds, and oh, and over here, another little project I'm working on is some mounting brackets for an accessory rail for telescope mount. So I have just been printing all kinds of stuff with this 3D printer, and I printed some little tchotchkes too, a little Jeep grill keychain for my wife. She drives a Jeep, all kinds of stuff. And I've printed a lot of accessories for the printer itself. One thing I really like about 3D printing is you can print your own upgrades for your printer, which is fantastic. And one thing I did was I built a box to keep it in because it's out here in my workshop. It's open air, it's dusty, it's dirty. I've got other machinery that runs and generates a lot of sawdust. It's chilly on some mornings like today, and keeping the heat in is important if you want the prints to stick and not give you problems. So it's quite a chilly morning today, so I'm going to be running it later, but having the box is great. I built the box pretty much just out of thin plywood with a plexiglass front and a plexiglass top, so I can see in and see what's going on, and I can get light inside to see what's going on. But it keeps the heat in, keeps the dust and crud out, so that's a beautiful thing. And I built it. 3D printed hinges. Look at that. Who knew you could 3D print hinges? Yeah, I found them on Thingiverse. And a 3D printed door handle. Nice. I've printed a lot of other upgrades for the printer. So let me take this enclosure off, and I'll show you some of the other stuff that's going on inside. The enclosure is quite light. It just lifts right off when I want to take it off to access something on the printer. It's made out of just 1/4-inch plywood and thin wood strips, just enough to hold the shape together. It's not really structural. It doesn't have support weight, so it keeps, like I said, the heat in and the crud out. And the printer is plugged into my big uninterruptible power supply, which has saved me many times when the lights have flickered. Kept the print going. As for the printer itself, I have printed out a variety of different accessories and modifications for it. Right up front here, one thing I did was I printed out this control panel cover. It covers the control panel on the back because this was all open, you know, and the wiring's hanging down, the circuit board's right there. Things could be easily damaged. So I found this on Thingiverse, printed it out, works great. Another thing I found on Thingiverse and printed out and works pretty good is this spool clamp right here. Holds the spool in place. Without it, the spool would walk back and forth and make strange noises, and sometimes the filament would get tangled up because it wasn't feeding the way I wanted it to. So this works great. Clamps right on there, holds the spool in place. Up here, I've got a strain relief for the bed heater wires. And again, I found this on Thingiverse, printed it out, works really well. I suggest everyone who has an Ender printer print one of these and install it. The wires were flexing pretty badly as the bed was going up and down, and this prevents that. This holds them in place. So there won't be any metal fatigue and eventual wire failure. So that's a good thing. So some of the other things I've done to the printer are not so much printout modifications. One simple, quick and easy modification is this piece of foam over here. I saw other people who were on YouTube who had printers were doing this, and basically it's just a little piece of foam, and I run the filament through it before it goes into the drive here. And what it does is the foam scrapes any debris off the filament before it goes through the drive, through the Bowden tube, and into the extruder, so I don't have to worry about debris getting into the extruder and clogging it up. So far it's worked really good. Maybe I've just been lucky, but I haven't had any extruder clogs at all. So that's great. And another modification I made was, if you look at the instructions call for the reel holder to be mounted out this way. Well, I put it this way just to save on desk space, reduce the footprint of the thing. Even before I built the enclosure around it, I figured this would be a much better way to mount it. And it feeds just fine this way. I don't see any reason why it can't be mounted this way. So that works good for me. Wire management. Well, wire management is a bit of an issue with these Creality printers. I don't know why they don't do a better job of running the wires in the factory, but they leave a mess of spaghetti for the new owner to deal with. So you just got to figure out how to run the wires so that they're out of the way of everything, but still leave enough room for them to flex as things move around, as the bed goes up and down, as the carriage on top goes back and forth. Everything has to be able to flex. The wires have to be able to move. They've got to have enough freedom, but they also can't get tangled up with the filament. So, you got to do a little wire management. The wire ties that they include with the printer are just way too short and horribly inadequate. So I had a bunch of longer, better wire ties on hand. So I've done some wire management. And speaking of wire management, let me turn the printer around. Let me pause the video for a minute, turn the printer around and show you something on the back of it. Hey, on the back of the printer where the wires come out of the control console, it's just bare sharp metal there. And eventually, it's going to scrape the insulation off the wires. You'll get a short circuit or something. So again, on Thingiverse, there is this plastic grommet-like thing you can print out and snap in place. And it prevents that from happening. It covers the sharp metal edges on the back of the control panel, and you don't have to worry about wire chafing. One other modification, unfortunately it's not wanting to focus very well since I'm so close, is the springs under the bed leveling springs. I have replaced them with stiffer springs, and that helps a lot with the bed leveling. I mean, the bed is still as big a pain to level as ever, but it stays level after you adjust it. I can level it once and then get a whole bunch of prints off of it without having to re-level it every time. With the stock springs, that just didn't work. The bed would not stay level. It was just very frustrating. But with these new stiffer springs, the bed tends to stay level for longer. I'll show you what the new versus the old springs look like. So here's the springs. The original spring is on the right, and the replacement springs I bought are on the left. And I got a pack of 10. They were really cheap. You only need 4, so you got some spares. And as you can see, the new springs are shorter than the old springs. But I'll tell you what, these springs are a whole lot stiffer than the old springs. They are much harder to compress. And the stiffer springs seem to help a lot with keeping the bed level. Don't ask me why. I am not sure. But, I saw that other people were replacing their springs and saying it helped. I replaced my springs, and I can attest it does help. And I'll try to put a link to where I got these springs in the description of this video. In fact, I'll try to remember to put links to all of these things, the Thingiverse projects and various other things in the video, in the description. And the one last modification I've done, which is not actually on the printer at the moment, is I have a glass bed. The glass bed is back there right now. And I go back and forth between the glass bed and the original magnetized rubber bed. I have found that prints tend to stick better to the rubber bed. It's a little harder to get them to stick to the glass. But on the other hand, the glass gives a much smoother bottom surface once you get it to stick. So I go back and forth. If I need a smooth bottom surface for what I'm printing, I will use the glass. If I don't need the smooth bottom surface, I'll just stick with the rubber magnetic one. And it only takes like a minute or two to swap between the two. You just gotta, you know, there's 8 clips that hold the glass on. Take them off, slide the glass off, put the magnetic pad back on, and then you just gotta turn the adjustment screws a lot to re-level it, but it doesn't take long. You can switch back and forth pretty easy. And the glass bed kit is really cheap, and lots of people offer it. But I'll try to remember to put a link to the particular one I bought in the description of this video. So anyway, that's what I've been doing with my Ender 5 Pro 3D printer. I'm really starting to get the hang of it. Wouldn't call myself a fantastic expert at this by any stretch of the imagination, but I am getting better. I have found that aside from bed leveling, which is the most important mechanical part of printing, all of the different settings in the slicer are very important to getting a good print. And I am still learning the settings in the slicer. I use Cura pretty much exclusively, and there are a lot of tutorials online about how to set the settings in Cura to solve various printing problems, and I'm starting to get a handle on it. You know, I'm making some good stuff over here, so we're getting there, slowly but surely. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting or informative. If so, give the video a like, and please subscribe to see future videos. Alright, have a good one. Bye.